The Discussing Network presents Discussing Comics. I am Kyle Jones, and welcome back the one and only Clarence Brown. Clarence, how are you?
I'm doing great, and as always, glad to be back on with you talking about, whatever it is we're talking about recently. We switch it up a lot.
We switch it up. We go from Doctor Who to Star Trek to comics to just a little bit every under the sun. But for this one, we're going back to comics, movies, comics, and specifically Black Widow. So let's get it out the gate. If you have not seen Black Widow, and if you've not seen Avengers Endgame, put us on pause. Go out, watch the episodes, watch the movies, actually. Come back because from this moment forward, spoilers. All right, spoiler warnings have gone out. Clarence Brown, Black Widow. What'd you think?
Oh, man. This is a hard one. I think overall I liked it, but honestly, it did feel like a very different experience. It was because we didn't know any other characters besides Natasha. They had to spend a lot of time of setting the groundwork for these three other characters we've never seen in the MCU. So from that aspect, I feel like it definitely was not the typical Marvel movie. It tried to make up for that with a few huge action beats, which those I enjoyed, but it was very much a slow pace, get to know the characters type of Marvel movie. Sort of like I guess an origin story, but we already knew this character, so it was basically an origin story for all the rest of the characters, which I'm fine with.
So let me ask you this. Well, let me agree with everything you just said. And I would sum it up saying perhaps it was the right movie, but the wrong time. And what I mean by that is, had that come out after Civil War, before Endgame, or before Infinity War, I think you may have gone away with a different feeling than you did. Do you agree or disagree?
I mean, you're right, because it's the first movie we've gotten since the big bombastic Marvel event in Endgame. So it definitely was a huge change of pace. Now, as far as the timing of when the story took place, it may have been better to see it in continuity as those events took place, because you're left wondering, okay, when did some of this happen? And kind of confusing, but they attempted to make up for that with maybe having physical anchors to what we see after with the vest, and which, if you didn't know that, it kind of went over my head, to be honest, until I went back and saw some of the recaps. But
me too.
But yeah, things like that. I think maybe even if we got it right after Endgame, but I think that it's been so long. It's been 2 years, right, since Endgame, hearing about that
Believe
time.
it or not, yes.
Yeah. So it's been so long, I think everybody is kind of just ready for the big thing to happen. And when you go back to something that's more grounded, which I'm fine with, it just didn't tickle that summer blockbuster itch that I was wanting. But still, it was a decent movie.
So did you see it at home or in the movies?
Oh, I definitely saw it at the movies.
So did I. So did I.
Yeah.
This is actually the first one I went to see since the last Star Wars. So it's been a long while for me.
I've seen a bunch of stuff since then.
Yeah. So seriously, that was for me. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed the entire time I'm watching it, but there was no stakes. I wasn't wondering, what am I going to find out? What's going to be revealed? What's the Easter egg that I'm going to see? Because it's bittersweet, because we know what's going to happen with Natasha. We know where she's going to. We know what's going to happen to her. I felt like this was, and while I like this character, I felt like this was the springboard to say, Scarlett Johansson, she's left the building. Here's our new Black Widow going forward, introducing the new Black Widow.
Or at least until we get the multiverse, because who knows what will happen then.
Well, true.
But yeah, I do feel like it was that. But again, I don't know. I think you were right in the timing it was placed in. It just felt kind of weird, but I do think it is a story that needed to be told. Honestly, and again, timing. I think what's so weird about it is that as this movie is coming out, we have Loki on Disney Plus, and to me, Loki is huge and as grand as anything we've seen on the screen from Marvel. So when we come back to this, which is a much more grounded, I say grounded, but they're spies all over Europe. But in a sense of galaxy wide, it's much more grounded in the Marvel universe. So it felt like just getting back to your friendly neighborhood Marvel type stuff versus the galactic out there in the world type stuff we've been seeing on Disney Plus.
So let me ask you this. What did you think of the familial aspect? This going back to this communist in hiding, these Soviet spies that are in U.S. and this family unit that they established. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Thoughts?
Like, I think for most people, seeing the roots of how it. Have you seen the show Hannah on Disney? Not Disney, Amazon TV.
I've seen you reference it, but no, I haven't.
Well, it's Hannah, and I think a show of a show called Americans, which I haven't seen. But
Yeah,
it's
I've
just
heard of that. Yeah.
but it's idea of Russian infiltration into American society for some spy stuff. That's the basic gist of it. And I did enjoy seeing that Natasha and her family was in Ohio, and she was just living the American dream, so to speak, and that was a life they had, and they seemingly were loving it. Of course, when we get into the Red Guardian, he wasn't loving it. He was just buying his time. But it seemed like the kids, they were into it, and that was the life that they knew and wanted to continue. So from that aspect, I think seeing how they grounded it there was a good entry point into the shenanigans we got in later. And I forgot what the question was.
No. You completely answered my question because I was asking, what did you think of the family relationship? And for me, I disliked it. It stood out like a sore thumb.
How so?
Before I say why, let me acknowledge that in order to paint the picture in the scope of the modern day MCU, some things have to change in the canon of characters.
Interesting.
Natasha, of course, was introduced back in the 60s, and she was a spy. She was already a grown woman when, and there was a such thing as the Red Room that we, come to find out about in this movie. There was no family relationship between she and Yelena. Or Elena. There was no family relationship between her and the Red Guardian. Now, in some of the stories, she was actually married, I believe, to one of the people who was the Red Guardian, and she turned against him when she defected. So that whole story there kind of got mashed up to create this family unit, which I get because if they're sisters, even if they're not blood sisters, you still give a reason for why the new Black Widow is going to do some of the things she's going to do. I get that. But as the comic book purist, I didn't like it.
Oh, your comic books, Cal.
Yes,
they're not keeping up with canon. No, look, I mean, could they probably do those stories that you just mentioned in the context of the MCU? Probably, but like with most things, they've changed for the sake of the movies and Disney Plus. They've done it, and I'm not saying it's necessarily always better, but they do it for a simplicity's sake. And even though they've tried to simplify it, it's still complicated as hell. So that being said, I think they're doing it more so for the newer audience. And some of the changes they made have arguably been for the better, But I definitely get the point that you're saying coming from a pure comic book point of view. They're messing with your stuff. They're messing with your stuff. And I could definitely see why you wouldn't be on board for that.
And if you're looking at it from the comic book purist, I'll agree with you to some degree. or to a lot of degree here. If you'll go back, anyone listening to our reviews of WandaVision, where we talked about the episode where it was Halloween, where Wanda and Vision dressed up as the Scarlet Witch and Vision from the comics, and that looked hokey.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't always take everything from the comics and translate them to the screen. You've got to have creative. And I get that. I'm just saying that just kind of felt a little weird for me.
Well, from my point of view, when you talk about the family, the thing that I liked all the interactions between the family members and them being pulled apart and being put back together again, and the struggle they've had to navigate those emotions. I liked all of that. But that being said, I felt like it made the movie almost too slow. Because there was many points, especially when we get back to what's the mother's name? I forget. I should pull up Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But when they're back in the cabin, and we're just having this long, methodical feeling scene where they're just getting reacquainted. I'm like, this is cool, but I'm at the movie theater.
Yes.
If this was Disney Plus, I would have no qualms about seeing them explore their relationship in such an excessive fashion, which, you know, it felt kind of excessive at some points. But it just felt weird being in the movies and taking all that time to be in that set piece for so long, where we're just kind of getting to know each other, which I enjoyed that. It's just, I kind of have mixed feelings about it, to be honest.
You know, I can't help but wonder, knowing that this movie should have come out a year prior. You know, it was held a year because of the pandemic. And, you know, I know that it waited, or we waited to see it. But some of the things that we're talking about, I don't think would have changed, that we would have felt the same way in 2020. That extra year of not watching didn't necessarily change how we felt about it. Maybe?
Well, felt about it. And you also wonder if the edit has changed over the last 12 months, or
Good
what,
point.
year and a half almost. That's one thing I really wonder about. And also I saw Fast 9 last night, and I wonder if that changed too, because it seems like in an effort that Marvel did their big Back to the Movies campaign, to see them putting so much weight on these films that they held with the purpose of probably recouping what they put into it, and B, they wanted to be a part of their big phases or their big cycles of getting into the MCU lore. You would definitely expect it to be rock solid.
Okay.
And going from what you just said, I feel like all that time really didn't afford it to be a better movie. Maybe they got some of the CG stuff better. Maybe they polished some of the nooks and crannies to make it, a little bit better. But I don't feel like, I don't know how I'm trying to say this here. It just feels like all that time I would expect it to be a much more polished movie. And who knows if that extra time made it worse or better than it would have been. And who knows if it changed at all, Because I do feel like we lingered on some of the jokes. We lingered on some of the things I think they would have cut out if it was you know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly
like
what
I'm
you're
rambling.
saying. No, you're not rambling, because here's what I think is I don't want to say problem with the Black Widow character, because let me preface what I'm about to say with the point of, I didn't like Black Widow as a character. Not that I disliked her. I didn't care one way or the other until Scarlett Johansson came along and brought life to the Black Widow, and I actually started liking her as a character in the comics. So I think she made the character likable, for me at least. That being said, there's not been a lot of character development with the Black Widow in the movies that she's been in, other than she's a spy and she has her alliances, and she's dedicated, she's loyal, she's trustworthy, until I think she got the most characterization in Endgame of all the previous movies she had been in.
Yeah, well, she did have some moments with Hulk there as well.
She did, true.
but again, when she's not an A character, in my opinion, and she is in movies where there are other huge A characters in, especially when we talk about the Avengers movies. So there's not going to be a whole lot of time to contribute to her development of her character. Hence, going back to your point, maybe we should have got this movie much earlier. I mean, you are completely right that we've got minor character development for her over the years, but it's just been hard to do in movies where so much is going on already and so many characters have the limelight.
So now I do think, though, putting a positive spin on it, I do think taking away from the bombastic, and you brought up a point earlier about Loki, and we're watching it simultaneously and seeing this universal shattering different and powers and all of this, and you're going to basically a female Jason Bourne movie. You're not having the powers. No, seriously, you're not having the powers that you're having and the visuals, because of none of them have, for the most part, powers.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's the equivalent of having a Star Wars movie and not having a Jedi. I mean, they've had good iterations of those. Of course, the Mandalorian, for the most part, and also the Rogue One movie, and even they did a Han Solo movie as well. So you can do it without having a Jedi, but this is the equivalent to me. To me, if you're going to do a movie devoid of superpowers in a superhero movie, it has to be very well done. And we got a little Red Guardian in there to kind of tide us over in that aspect. And that being said, they attempted to play that up, I think, with the Jason Bourne-ness or spyness of the movie, with these big, huge action sequences. Which, if that's what you were looking for, I think you would have enjoyed these movies, because they kind of went over the top with some of these action sequences. So I don't know.
So help me out here. This was something that I've not looked up, and it's something that I thought while watching the movie. In your interpretation, is she enhanced in any way, or is she just okay? There is no way, if that is true, there is no way that she can take the hits that she took and get up and keep fighting. No way.
I don't know. Did she take anything that bad?
Yes. I mean, she was falling here, doing this, getting knocked around this, and I'm just saying.
So personally, I don't think she did anything that was that out of the ordinary. But then again, I've just been watching all of the Fast and Furious movies, so maybe my suspension of disbelief is kind of screwed right now.
Maybe so. Yeah, true. Good point.
But
Go ahead.
But I'm just saying, we'll talk about, disbelief. I mean, her getting hit or getting injured, I've always had confidence in her abilities. So, when they're running through Prague or Budapest and they're falling around, to me, that was Jason Bourne spy stuff. I can see her and Hawkeye doing that type of thing. So, okay, I'm here for it. I think that's fine for them. These are highly trained spies. Again, I said I watched Hannah recently on Amazon TV, and they're doing similar stuff. So,
and I used to watch you. You remember Alias?
Yeah.
I loved Alias, and they did that too.
Yeah, so that wasn't out of the realm of possibility for me, but it was some of the story elements that I was just like, really? I know we'll get into it, but the pheromone thing, I don't like the MCU face mask thing. I just don't like it. It's just too unbelievable for me. I get you. For me, but I'm sorry. Go ahead with your question.
No. But that was actually a comic book tie-in throwback. There was a comic storyline where Natasha and what is her name? Elena?
Ilana?
Ilana. Okay.
Ilana? Which one are you talking? You talking about Florence Pugh?
Yeah, Florence Pugh. What's her character?
Yeah, Ilana.
Okay. When they actually started getting along, there was a story to where they used some kind of technology to do the change face thing. So that's actually a little nod to something that happened in the comics. So I thought that was kind of cool, but I didn't know about that until I started reading up about her after watching the movie. So
yeah, but we've seen the face thing in the MCU before. More recently on Falcon and Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. So I just don't like it as a
It's a
a
good get out
plot
of
point, or get out of jail free card.
yeah, exactly, and that's basically what it is. So Taskmaster, thoughts?
Very interesting villain that I want to see come back. I like, again, I'm not the comic person, so it didn't bother me that she was Dracov's daughter. It was Chekhov's daughter, so it really didn't bother me in that aspect. But I do like the abilities, and I want to see that come back at some point. I think it will, because it was cool seeing her do the cap throw and kind of the Spider-Man swing that she did, and a few other MCU characters. She kind of copied their moves. So I really enjoyed her, and again, I don't know the comics, so it didn't bother me that they changed it.
Yeah, I don't really care one way or the other. I'm like you. It doesn't bother me. I know there's a lot of people that are like, it should have been a man, but
who cares?
Who cares? But I do like the way they explained it, because I think there will be likely a future version of Taskmaster proper, because somebody, whether it's a man or a woman, will get the thing, implanted in their head and have the same ability.
Yeah. Now, my only issue with it being Dracov's daughter is the fact that I think they only did that to make Natasha Romanoff redeemable, or to redeem her, to say, oh, she didn't kill this little girl she was finna kill in cold blood.
Right.
She was and that was her transition to be able to leave the Red Room, to be able to go to the Avenger, not the Avengers, but
the CIA or the NSA or whatever you want to call it.
No, she went to Samuel Jackson's group.
Oh,
Shield. I'm sorry, Shield.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was what she did to be able to transition into Shield. So it's kind of a little messy transition for the character to have to kill this girl to be able to move on to something better. And of course, she has plenty of other blood on her hands. But to me, they just tried to do that to try to redeem the character a little bit. And I don't know.
So what I was thinking whenever I saw that, I was thinking, it's not like spies don't do that anyway, and we just don't know about it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. The good spies, or the good spy agent, does stuff like that anyway, but we just don't think about it. They don't.
But this is Avenger. She's famous, as Yolanda said. She's famous. So, and well, I was going to pivot, but go ahead.
No. That's it. That's pretty much the sum of the movie, and all intents and purposes.
What did you think about Yolanda?
I liked her. I didn't think I was at the beginning, but I actually grew to like her throughout the movie. What did you think?
I enjoyed her. They pretty much, again, like, they almost did too much comedy with her, so much so that it started to get on my nerves a little bit. But she was definitely I did feel like she was a comedy relief in a lot of senses of the movie, and she was pretty funny. She said some funny things.
I will say this: I will never see another rewatch of anything that Black Widow is in and not see the Black Widow pose and laugh.
Yeah, the Black Widow pose, and then she said a bunch of other funny things within the movie that I thought were really good, and I love the attention she brought to the family dynamic as they were sitting at the table, and you had the Red Guardian and all of them going at it. What really kind of egged me the wrong way is that he was so dismissive of the family portion of it. He was just like, I was just doing my job the whole time. But that's what he was a spy. That's what he was doing. But he was so into that he was, and even the mother for that point, to the point where they were dismissive of the family element that they lived for a couple of years in Ohio. So,
yeah, and not realizing for the children, that was one thing that I thought that they did well, was giving the impression of, as the adults, they're clueless, but realizing that, especially the younger child, that's your formative years and that's your reality as you know it.
Yeah.
And that was, and that's what you're just now talking about. That was her reality as she knew it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so if I were to ask a final rating on Black Widow, what would you give it?
I don't know, man. It's all over the place. I see people who are saying this is one of the top 10 Marvel movies. I kid you not. People I really trust that review movies have said it's like the top 10 Marvel movies. Not for me. I'm going to give it like a 3 at best. I enjoyed it, but I will say when I left the theater, there were just a few things with Dreykov and the pheromone thing and, the unneeded subversion of them switching with the mask. I'm like, that they tried to do to make the movie more exciting. And even if you look at the final act where she is in Dreykov's room and how that all takes place, it's very, even though we do have fight sequences that occur right off after that, Dreykov is not an enemy that you fight. He's more of a big boss running things, and he's not going fisticuffs with anybody. So to me, that was just a huge meandering talky bit to me.
Right.
Okay. Well, but they tried to fix that by having the big the red room is falling scene at the very end. So yeah, man, I just had to give it a 3. I thought the action stuff was good, but to me, some of the cohesiveness with the story just didn't work for me. I'm not saying it wasn't good, but it just didn't work for me.
So I'm going to follow up and give it a 3 as well. I wish that Marvel would have made the decision to have made this earlier in their cinematic timeline. I think we would have had a very different appreciation had it come out in 2016, 2015, 2017, somewhere in that range.
Yes.
I think it would have been so much better, so much, it would have added dimensions to Endgame because you would have known more of, So I think it was a good movie, but in the wrong time. And so the best I'm going to give it is a 3. But I do give them credit for making the new Black Widow likable. Whether she was too funny or not, I am intrigued by her.
Do we know she's a new Black Widow for sure?
Well, I'm going to say she is, because we've got the after credit scene, mid-credit scene, whatever you want to call it. And we see, I'm saying she's going to be in the Hawkeye Disney Plus series.
Yeah, I think that has been confirmed, I believe.
All right. So that being said, I'm more interested I'll put it this way. I was not interested in the Hawkeye series at all. 0. Had no intent to enjoy it. I had an intent to watch it, but I had no intent to enjoy it. Now I'm looking forward because I want to see her again.
I'm not a fan of Clint Barton, man, at all.
I'm not either. And especially, no offense to Jeremy Renner, but he is not what I see as being Hawkeye. He is, to me, one of the only bad casting that they did.
Why, from a physical appearance or just
from the
look?
Physical appearance, from the attitude, from the portrayal. Hawkeye, to me, acted a little bit more like Star-Lord. A little, cocky, arrogant, whatever, not this person that they represent. Yeah. Family, yeah. And the whole family thing I did not like, which we've talked about before.
Yeah, he should have went over the cliff aside, and ScarJo should not have. That's the bottom line for me.
I agree, 100%. So for everyone listening, if you're watching us on a streaming, if we're on YouTube or however you might be watching us, we hope you enjoyed. For everyone listening, thank you for joining us. And as always, we will be back next time.